The city was big and bright. Tall buildings touched the sky, and flying cars moved like quiet birds. But among the noise and speed, a small girl walked slowly on the sidewalk. Her shoes were old and her coat was too big for her tiny body. Held a folder tightly in her hands. Her name was Lena. She was only 8 years old. She stood in front of a huge silver building. The sign said Starfront Technologies. It was one of the most powerful companies on earth. People said its CEO was rich, smart, and cold-hearted. His name was Rain. Lena looked up at the building, took a deep breath, and walked toward the glass doors. 2 guards saw her coming. One of them asked, "Are you lost, little one?" Lena shook her head. "No, I'm here for the job interview." Dot. Guards looked at each other and laughed a little, not in a mean way, but in surprise. "The interviews are for adults," one of them said kindly. "My mom was invited," Lena said calmly, "but she's sick today, so I came instead." The guards were confused. One of them picked up his radio. "There's a child here for the 10 o'clock interview. Says her mom is sick." They waited. A moment later, a voice replied, "Send her up. Mr. Rain wants to see her."
I'll wait.
She followed one of the guards through a scanner and into the shining elevator. The walls were mirrors, and soft music played. The elevator rose quickly, and soon they reached the 50th floor. The doors opened into a large, bright office. Looked clean and expensive. A man stood near the big window, looking down at the city. He turned around when Lena entered. He was tall, with dark hair and sharp eyes. He wore a simple black suit, but it looked like it cost more than everything Lena's family owned. This was Rain, the CEO. "You must be Lena," he said. "Yes," Lena replied, standing straight. Rain raised an eyebrow. "You know this is a job interview, right?" Lena nodded. "I do. My mom's name is Mira. She was called for the interview. But she's not feeling well. She wanted to come. I told her I would try for her." Rain walked to his desk. "Try." Lena opened her folder and placed some papers in front of him. "These are my mom's designs. She worked on them all week. She said it could help with your clean energy project." Rain looked at the papers. At first, he didn't expect much, but after a few seconds, his eyes narrowed. The design was detailed, well-planned, and ... unique. It was not just smart. It was better than what his own team had offered so far. "You understand any of this?" he asked. "A little," Lena said honestly. "I watched her work. I help her sometimes," she explains. "Thanks to me." Rain sat down. "Help me understand something, Lena. Why would you come here? Why not just wait?" "Because," she said, her voice quiet but strong, "we need the job. Mom is getting worse. We don't have much money. And I didn't want her to miss this chance. She worked hard for it." There was a long pause. Rain looked at Lena. He saw no fear, only hope and courage in her eyes. It reminded him of something. Someone his own mother, long ago. He pressed a button on his desk. "Tommy's come in." A tall man with glasses entered the room. He looked serious and strict. "This is Tommy's, my assistant," Rain said. "Tommy's, take these designs and check them. I want your full review by the end of the day." Tommy's glanced at the papers, then at the girl. "Sir, is this a joke?" "No, it's a test," Rain replied. "And I never ignore a good idea no matter where it comes from." Tommy's nodded slowly and left. Rain turned back to Lena. "Your mom, why did she stop working before?" Lena sat down. "She used to work at another company, but she told the truth about a dangerous machine. They didn't like that. They let her go. Since then, no one hires her." Rain nodded. He had heard of Mira before, a quiet name in old engineering circles, but he had never met her. "You did something very brave today," Rain said. Lena smiled. "I just want to help." Rain stood up. "All right, Lena, I'm not promising anything yet, but your mom will get a chance to speak to us again, and you will. You've already impressed me." He walked her to the elevator. As the doors closed, Rain stared at the folder in his hand. In all his years as CEO, no interview had started like this. After Lena left the tall building, She walked home with tired feet but a happy heart. She didn't know if anything good would happen, but she felt proud. She had done what she could. Now it was up to the stars. Or maybe Mr. Arnett the same. Time inside Starfront Technologies. Tommy stood in front of a large screen in the research lab. He looked at the design Lena had brought. These numbers. This is not just good, it's genius, he muttered to himself. The clean energy reactor. Design was simple, efficient, and safe. It used low-cost materials and could power whole towns without pollution. And it was created by a woman who had been jobless for years. He couldn't believe it, but the numbers were right. He sent a message to Rain. The design works. It's better than anything we've tested in the last 6 months. Later that evening, Rain sat alone in his high office. The city lights below blinked like stars. He opened a file on his tablet. Mira Elin, age 34, engineer. Formerly worked for Hexacore Energy, fired 8 years ago. No job since. Rain leaned back and remembered something. Years ago, his own mother had been let go from her job after she spoke up about unfair treatment. She had raised him alone, working long hours, never giving up. Maybe that little girl reminded me of her, he whispered. He sent a message to Tommy's. Find out where Mira lives. I want to speak with her quietly. The next morning, a plain black car stopped in a quiet part of the city. The streets were narrow, the buildings old, but the small house at the corner was clean and neat. A garden with dry flowers stood in front. Rain stepped out of the car, dressed simply, no guards. He knocked on the door. After a moment, it opened. Myra stood there, surprised. She looked tired and pale, but her eyes were bright and sharp. Wore an old sweater and held a warm cup of tea in her hand. Mr. Rain, she said softly. I wanted to thank you, Rain said, and speak to you in person. She opened the door wider. Please, come in. Inside, the house was small, but full of warmth. Lena's drawings were on the wall. Books and tools were placed carefully on shelves. A small computer blinked in the corner. I heard my daughter came to see you, Mira said, sitting down slowly. She did. She was very brave, Rain replied. Mira smiled. She always tries to help. Rain placed the folder on the table. This design, it's more than just good. It's exactly what we've been looking for. Why didn't you submit it before? I tried. No one would even look at it, Mira said. They remembered I spoke out years ago. Some people don't forgive truth. Rain nodded. You were right to speak up. It's that machine you warned about it. Caused a failure last year. Injured people. Mira looked down. I tried to stop it, but it cost me everything. Rain looked around, and still, you didn't give up. Mira shook her head. I couldn't. I had Lena. There was silence. Then Rain spoke gently. I'd like to offer you a 1-week trial. You can work from here if you're still not well enough to come in. Mira was surprised. You trust me? I've seen your work, Rain said. And I saw your daughter walk into a building full of strangers to protect your future. That kind of loyalty is rare. Mira's eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them. Thank you. I'll do my best. That week, Mira worked hard from her home. She joined the Starfront team through live video calls. She explained how her design worked, answered questions, and even suggested improvements. The engineers were surprised by her clarity and kindness. Some had forgotten what it felt like to learn from someone so humble and smart, and every day, Lena sat beside her mom, watching, listening, sometimes passing her tools or notes in the office. Tommy said to Rain, it's hard to believe she was ignored all these years. Rain nodded. Some people hide stars in the dark, but they still shine. On Friday, the trial was complete. Mira's design had passed every test. It used 40% less energy, cost 30% less to build, and produced clean power with almost no waste. At the final meeting, the whole team clapped for Mira. She smiled from the screen. Rain stood. Myra Elin, welcome to Starfront Technologies. We would be lucky to have you. Lena cheered behind the camera. Myra laughed. Thank you, Mr. Rain. And thank you to everyone. But Myra's voice turned serious. I'll only accept if I can keep working from home for now. Lena still needs me. Rain smiled. Of course. Send equipment to your house. You've earned it. Later that night, Rain looked at a photo on his desk. It was an old picture of his mother, holding him as a baby. He remembered the nights she worked late, the mornings she made breakfast with tired hands. Now he had helped someone like her, not just a worker, a fighter, a mother, forgotten genius. He sent a message to Tomies. Prepare her full contract. And also make a scholarship fund for Lena, Tomies replied. Will do, Rain whispered to himself sometimes. It had been 1 week since Mira joined Starfront Technologies from home, and already her presence was making a difference. Engineers were working with more energy. Meetings were shorter, but more productive. Even Tomies, who was usually serious and hard to impress, had started showing quiet respect. But the biggest change wasn't just in the office, it was in Rain himself. The CEO, once known for being distant and cold, now found himself thinking more often about things outside of work, like the way Lena had marched into his office with calm confidence, or how Mira never asked for sympathy, only a chance. One morning, Rain stood at the wide glass window of his office, watching the city below. It was a quiet moment before another busy day. He sipped his tea and thought, how many other geniuses have been ignored because no one listened? Just then, Tomies entered. Sir, he said, holding a tablet, we're getting results from the beta test. The energy reactor based on Myra's design has powered to remote villages for 3 days, no errors, no pollution, no drop in performance. Rain turned around. That fast? Yes, it's already making headlines. Quietly, for now, but it won't stay quiet for long. Rain nodded. Good. Let it grow slowly. We don't want the wrong people grabbing attention yet. Tomies paused. You're thinking about the board, aren't you? Rain gave a small smile. They don't like surprises. That afternoon, Rain held a video meeting with Mira. Screen showed her small living room. Behind her, Lena sat at a table, coloring pictures with bright crayons. Mira looked stronger than before, but there was still a tiredness in her eyes. You look better, Rain said kindly. Thanks to this. Job. It gave me hope again, Mira replied. And better medicine. I wanted to talk about something, Rain said. We're preparing a press release about the new reactor. I'd like to name you as lead designer. Mira's smile faded slightly. Are you sure? You deserve the credit? I'm not afraid for myself, Mira said. But last time I spoke up, it cost me everything. Rain was quiet for a moment. Things are different now. Won't let anyone silence you again. Mira looked into the camera. Then yes, I'll do it. From the table, Lena looked up and smiled. Go, Mom. The next day, Starfront's public channels released the announcement. Clean Future Project launches, powered by design of Mira Elin. The story spread fast. People were curious. Who was this quiet engineer who disappeared for years and suddenly returned with world-changing ideas? Some reporters wanted to meet her, but Mira said no. She preferred to stay home with Lena. Some cheered for her. Some doubted her. But no one could ignore the results. Behind the scenes, Rain watched carefully. He knew not everyone would be happy. That same week, an emergency board meeting was called. In the tall, cold meeting room, Rain stood before a long table of serious-looking men and women. They were the board of Starfront, powerful, rich, and not easy to impress. Why are we giving all the attention to this woman? One board member, Mr. Calvin, asked sharply. She was thrown out of the industry 8 years ago. She was silenced, Rain replied firmly. Not because she was wrong, but because she was right too early. Still another member added, she's not an employee with full clearance. She's working from home. Her daughter is running around our office. This doesn't look professional. Hasn't stepped inside the office since the trial started, Rain said. Her daughter was only here once for her mother, which is more than I can say for most people in this room. Some members looked uncomfortable. Calvin leaned forward. We've built this company on stability, not emotional decisions. And right now, the news cycle is changing too fast. Anything goes wrong, she becomes a risk. Rain's eyes narrowed. What would you rather do? Shut her out again? Let her talent waste away like before? That's not the kind of company I'm building. Calvin sat back, silent but angry. Later, Rain sat in his office, staring at the skyline. He knew trouble was coming. People like Calvin didn't give up easily, but Rain had made his choice. He sent a message to Mira. There may be some pressure. From the board, stay calm. I'm on your side. Mira replied, I'm not afraid this time, not while Lena is watching me. Rain smiled. He closed the message and looked at a new document plans for the next reactor, even bigger than the first. Then his eyes drifted to something else, a small drawing Lena had made during her visit. She had left it on his desk. It was a simple sketch. 3 stick figures standing under a bright sun. One looked like Myra. One looked like Lena. The third wore a black suit and had pointy hair. Under it, she had written, Thank you, Mr. Rain. He placed it in a frame beside his computer. Meanwhile, in a quiet hallway on a lower floor of the company, Calvin made a call. Yes, he whispered. Begin digging. Find anything on Mira Elin. I don't care if it's small, we need something to push her out. Quietly. Far from the tall buildings and secrets, Lena sat with her mother at home. Mom, she asked, are you going to be famous now? Mira smiled and brushed her daughter's hair. Maybe, but that's not important. Then what is? That I can work, that I can help people, and that I can be here for you. Lena leaned against her. You're already my hero. And in that small home filled with dreams and wires, a woman once forgotten by the world began to shine again. 2 weeks had passed since Mira Elin's name was announced to the world as the mind behind the clean energy reactor. Her story had inspired many, especially young women, single mothers, and engineers who had once felt forgotten. But inside the tall glass building of Starfront Technologies, not everyone was celebrating. Mr. Calvin, a senior board member, sat in his private office with sharp eyes and tight lips. He had found nothing dangerous in Mira's background, but still, something about her success bothered him. She's becoming a symbol, he said quietly to his assistant. And symbols are hard to control. He made another call. This time, to a former worker from Hexacore Energy, Mira's old company. Tell me everything about her, he said coldly. Every file, every old project, I'll pay well. At Myra's small house, life had changed quickly. New equipment had arrived from Starfront screens. Scanners upgraded tools, and Myra now worked from a small home lab that looked almost like a real science center. Lena had her own desk in the corner, filled with pencils, notepads, and little projects of her own. One evening, while Mira was testing a small version of the reactor, Lena brought her a glass of water. Mom, Will, they try to take it from you? She asked softly. Mira looked up, surprised. Who told you that? No one. I just feel like some people don't like that you're winning. Mira smiled gently and held her daughter's hand. They can't take what I've built, not without a fight. And this time, I have people who believe in me. The next day at Starfront, Rain stood in a meeting with his core team, including Tomies and several engineers. A large screen showed data from the pilot energy grid in 3 test cities. The clean energy reactor is stable in all test locations, Tomies reported. We've reduced fuel costs by 60%. Pollution, almost zero. Applause filled the room. This is just the beginning, Rain said. I want 10 more reactors prepared for the next phase. But just as the meeting ended, a red alert blinked on the screen. System error, Sector 3 failure. DITICIT. The room fell silent. Rain tapped his tablet. Get Mira on a secure call. Now, back in her home lab, Mira was already seeing the problem. On her screen, one of the reactors in a distant city had dropped power suddenly. She tapped through logs quickly. It's not the reactor, she said into the live call with Rain and the team. Something was changed in the software remotely. It shouldn't be possible. Could it be sabotage? Rain asked. Mira nodded. It looks like someone placed false code to cause overload. Tomies frowned. But who has access to that level of control? Rain's eyes darkened. Only a few people in our inner system. Lena tugged Mira's sleeve. Mom, remember the backup plan you made? The reset file? Mira's eyes lit up. Yes. Thank you, sweetie. She quickly opened a hidden code she had written a week ago. A failsafe, just in case something went wrong. I'm sending it to you now, Mira told the team. Run it in the control hub. It'll restore the original settings. Within minutes, the failing reactor came back online. Power returned to the city. The room in Starfront cheered. Rain smiled for the first time that day. That backup code, Tommy said, impressed. You've built that just in case? I've learned, Myra replied, that systems can fail, but trust must not. After the call, Rain stayed back in his office. He was thinking about the sabotage. Only a few people had the kind of access needed to insert false code, and one of them was sitting on the board. He opened a file marked Internal Access Logs. A few minutes of searching, his face hardened. The code had been placed by someone using a masked ID, but the timestamp and location matched a private terminal used by Mr. Calvin. That night, Rain visited Mira's home in person. This time, he didn't come as a CEO, but as a friend. He brought a small bag with books for Lena and a sealed letter for Mira. What's this? Mira asked. Protection, Rain said. Some people may still try to push you out. This letter officially makes you head of innovation for the Clean Future Project. They can't touch you now. Mira opened the letter slowly. She looked up at Rain. Why are you doing this for me? Because you earned it, Rain said. And because Lena reminded me of someone I once knew, someone who also never gave up, even when the world closed its doors. Lena ran forward and hugged Rain's leg. You're not so scary anymore, she said with a giggle. Rain laughed, a sound few people in his company had ever heard. The next day, Mira's name trended across networks again, not just as a designer now, but as a leader. She received hundreds of messages from young students, single parents, and engineers from around the world. One message said, I was going to quit engineering, but your story made me stay. Another said, my daughter wants to be just like you. Perhaps the most important message came from Rain himself. When truth is your guide, you don't walk alone anymore. But deep in the background, Mr. Calvin watched the news, his hands clenched into fists. She may have won this time, he whispered, but this game isn't over. He had failed to break her once, but he wasn't finished trying. Everything seemed peaceful at Starfront Technologies. The energy reactors Mira had designed were now powering 5 cities. Reports were positive, people were happy, investors were excited, but peace doesn't last forever, not when envy grows. In the shadows, Mr. Calvin sat alone in his office. The large glass windows behind him showed a beautiful view of the city. But he wasn't looking at the view. He was staring at a screen filled with files, messages, and personal records. Rain gave her too much power, he muttered. She's just one woman. She shouldn't be leading this company into the future. Calvin clicked through files, searching for anything. Something to make Mira look weak or dangerous. Something to make Rain regret trusting her. And then he saw it, an old report from Hexacore, the company where Mira once worked. Employee under review. Claimed safety concerns without proof. Caused delay in product launch. The report was full of lies. But for someone like Calvin, it was enough. The next day, Lena returned to Starfront for the first time since her mother's trial week. She held a small drawing in her hand one she had made for Ron. It showed Mira, Lena, and Rain standing in front of a shining energy tower. On the tower, Lena had written in bright blue, Mom's light keeps the city alive. As she walked through the hallway, employees smiled and waved. Lena had become something special at Starfront. Her visits brought warmth, like sunshine through glass. She reached Rain's office and knocked softly. Come in, Rain called. Lena stepped in and held up her drawing. For you, she said. Rain took it and smiled. I'll frame this next to your last one. Just then, Tommy's rushed in with a worried look. Sir, we have a problem. Rain stood. What is it? Tommy's handed over a printed file. The board received this an hour ago. It's from Hexacourse. Old employee records. Someone is using it to question Mira's leadership. Rain read the document. He frowned. These claims were proven false years ago. This is just an old lie. But now it's being used again, Tommy said. They're calling for a vote to suspend Mira from the Clean Future Project. Lena's smile faded. What does suspend mean? It means, Rain said gently, they want to stop your mom from working at least for now. But she didn't do anything wrong, Lena said. I know, Rain replied, and I won't let them take her work away. At home, Mira sat quietly after Rain told her everything. She held the tablet in her hands, the false report staring back at her. They're using this again. She whispered, I'll speak to the board, Rain said. You don't need to explain yourself again. No, Mira replied, her voice steady. This time, I will. She stood up, her back straight. They can look me in the eye and hear the truth. The boardroom was full, every seat was taken. Screens on the walls showed real-time data from the clean energy reactors. Rain sat at the front. Mira stood beside him. Calvin, as usual, wore a fake polite smile. Before we begin, I just want to make it clear, this is not personal. Want what's best for the company? Then why are you attacking the only person who gave us working technology? Rain asked coldly. Calvin lifted the old file. Her past is not clean. Her decisions cause delays, problems, costs. Mira stepped forward. Her voice was calm but strong. That report was written after I warned Hexacor about a safety issue. They ignored me. Months later, one of their reactors exploded. People were hurt. I was right but punished, Calvin interrupted. Do you have proof? Yes, Myra said. And so do you. You just don't care. She placed a USB device on the table. This holds original emails from that time, engineering reports, logs, witness notes. They were hidden, but I kept copies. Tommy's plugged it into the boardroom screen. The evidence was clear. Even the oldest board members couldn't deny the truth now. Calvin leaned back in his chair, silent. One by one, the other board members nodded. Then one of them stood up. I vote to protect Myra's role in the Clean Future Project. Another followed. I second it. The vote was made. Myra's position was safe. But more than that, something else had happened. Myra had spoken for herself and won. That evening, back at Myra's house, Lena jumped into her mother's arms. You did it, she shouted. Myra laughed. No, sweetie. We did it. You gave me the courage. Rain stood by the door, smiling. I told you, you're not alone anymore. Mira turned to him. Thank you for standing with me. Rain shook his head. You stood for yourself. I just made sure everyone heard you. Lena pulled both of them close. Can we build something cool now? Like a rocket? Mira laughed again. Maybe one day. Back at Starfront, Calvin stood, alone in his dark office. He had lost this round, but his eyes burned with silent anger. There are other ways, he muttered. Outside, the city lights glowed, powered by the very reactors he had tried to stop. And deep inside those lights was the power of one woman, one little girl, and the truth that wouldn't stay buried. A month had passed since Mira defended herself in the Starfront boardroom. After the meeting, everything started changing quietly but powerfully. Across the planet, cities were now running on her clean energy reactors. Old power plants were being shut down. People in small towns who once lived in darkness every evening now had bright homes and warm water. Every newspaper and news channel started using her name. Mira Elin, the engineer who lit the future. But Mira stayed the same. She still worked from her small home lab. She still made tea every morning. She still helped Lena with school before sitting down to fix codes and build ideas. And most importantly, she remained humble. One sunny morning, Rain arrived at Mira's house. With a soft knock on the door, Lena opened it with a big grin. Mr. Rain, want to see my robot? Rain smiled. Maybe after I talk to your mom. Inside, Mira greeted him with a gentle nod. Is everything all right? Rain sat down and pulled out a tablet. Better than all right. The Clean Future Project is now being requested by 10 more cities. The government is offering full support. Mira blinked. 10 more? He nodded. and they want you to lead it ALA's chief engineer. She looked surprised. That sounds like a full-time job. It is. But we'll adjust things. You can still work from here. We'll send a small team to support you. You won't have to do everything alone. Mira looked around her cozy home, her daughter's books, the small garden outside, the drawings on the wall. I appreciate the offer, she said. But I want to stay here. This house. It's where Lena grew up. It's where I rebuilt myself. Rain nodded slowly. Then we'll build around this home. You won't move to Starfront. Starfront will move to you. A week later, a quiet group of engineers arrived near Mira's neighborhood. They helped build a small satellite lab just behind her home. It looked like a part of the house, but inside, it had everything: a testing area, computers, tools, and even a screen where Myra could lead global meetings. People in the area watched with curiosity. Some were confused. Others were proud. One neighbor said, "Who knew that little house would light up the whole world?" Meanwhile, Lena had become something of a local hero herself. Her drawing had been used on Starfront's official posters. Schools started inviting her to talk about science. She always stood shyly on stage and said, "I'm not a scientist. Just believe in my mom." One day, Rain surprised them both with news. "I've created something new," he told them. He showed them a digital document, the Lena Elin Scholarship Fund. "This will help smart children from small towns study engineering and science," Rain explained. "In your name." Lena's eyes widened. "But I'm just a kid." Rain smiled. "Yes, a kid who changed the future by walking into a job interview." Myra held her daughter close. "This means everything. Thank you." Back at Starfront HQ, Tommy's noticed something too. The mood had changed. People smiled more. Meetings had more ideas and less pressure. Even junior engineers felt free to speak. One afternoon, Tommy's looked at Rain and said, "You've changed. I used to avoid stories like this." Rain replied quietly, "Maybe I forgot what really matters. Mira and Lena reminded me." Tommy's smiled. The heart of the future isn't just technology. It's the people behind it. But not everyone was pleased. Mr. Calvin, once powerful, now found himself ignored in meetings. His voice no longer carried weight. He watched Myra's success grow. Her face now on global panels and digital conferences. "She made it," he said bitterly. "She actually made it." One of his contacts whispered, "We could still cause problems." Calvin shook his head. "No, she's protected now. The people believe in her, and the company does too." He looked out the window, defeated. Stories already written. I lost. That weekend, Mira stood on a small stage at a local community center. The mayor had asked her to speak. Her hands were shaking, but her heart was full. She looked at the crowd: young students, local workers, her neighbors. Lena sat in the front row, eyes shining. Myra spoke gently. "I didn't come from a powerful family. I didn't go to fancy schools. Then for many years I was told I wasn't good enough." She paused. "But all I needed was one chance. One person. To believe in me. And now, I believe in you, all of you." The room was quiet, and then it filled with cheers. Later, one little girl walked up and said, "I want to be like you." Mira smiled. "You'll be even better." Back at home, as the sun set, Mira and Lena sat together in the garden. "Did you ever think this would happen?" Lena asked. "No," Mira said softly. "But I always hoped in Mr. Rain." Myra smiled. "He gave us a door. But we walked through it." Lena looked up at the stars. "Do you think I can build a ship one day and go there?" Mira hugged her. "You can do anything." Inside the house, the lights glowed, powered by Mira's own energy reactor. A woman once forgotten, a girl once too small. Together, they had lit the world. Months passed. Cities glowed with soft, clean energy that came from the reactors designed by Mira Elin. No smoke, no noise. It's just silent, steady power, like her own spirit. Across the planet, power grids once ruled by giant corporations now followed Mira's model. Her story was no longer just news. It had become part of school books, documentaries, and even bedtime stories. But in the middle of all the success, Mira stayed the same. She still worked from her small home. She still helped Lena with her homework every evening. And sometimes, she still walked to the corner shop like an ordinary person, though people often stopped her for a photo or a kind word. One day, checking the new system map from her home lab, Myra noticed something strange. A small island in the northern seas had no energy connection. She called Tommy's. "Why is this place still using old fuel?" Tommy's replied, "They're off-grid. No one ever asked to upgrade their system." Mira smiled. "Then I'll ask." A week later, Mira stood on the windy island with a team of engineers. The people there welcomed her with warm tea and fresh bread. Their houses were small and cold, powered by noisy old generators. "You came all the way here?" one man asked in surprise. Mira nodded. "Everyone deserves light, even if they're far away." In just 3 days, her team set up a small version of her reactor. When the switch was turned on, the houses lit up with a soft golden glow. Children ran out laughing. Elderly people cried with joy, and for the first time in years, the island was quiet. No more noisy machines, only the soft hum of clean power. That night, the people lit lanterns and danced by the sea. Myra sat beside the fire. Watching the stars, she thought of Lena, back home. Lena had a surprise waiting for her mom. With help from Rain and the Starfront team, she had planned a small event, a celebration. Nothing big, just friends, engineers, and neighbors. When Mira returned from the island, she was shocked. The backyard was filled with soft lights, laughter, and a small banner that said, "Thank you, Mom, for powering our world." Mira covered her mouth, holding back tears. "What is this?" Lena ran to her. "It's your thank you party. You never stop helping others. Now it's time we thank you." Rain stepped forward, handing her a gift. It was a crystal model of her first reactor with the words, "One light can change everything," engraved on it. Tom has raised a toast to the woman who reminded us that truth, courage, and love can light more than cities, they can light hearts. Some wiped away tears. Mira looked around. She had once felt small, forgotten, and lost. Now she was surrounded by people who believed in her. As the evening continued, Rain sat beside Mira under the stars. "You changed the world," he said quietly. "I just fixed a few things." She replied with a soft smile. "No," Rain said. "You fixed more than machines. You fixed minds. You gave people hope." Myra looked at him. "And you gave me a chance." Rain nodded slowly. "It started with a little girl walking into my office." They both smiled. Lena ran over, holding a drawing she made. "This is us," she said. "Me, you, and Mr. Rain standing on the moon." Mira laughed. "The moon, huh?" "Ah." "Next goal," Lena said proudly. The following month, a large international. The event was held, the Global Energy Future Summit. World leaders, scientists, and inventors from across the galaxy attended. And at the center of it all stood Mira Elin. When her name was announced, the entire room stood and clapped. She walked slowly onto the stage. Her simple dress, her calm smile, her kind eyes, everything about her reminded the world that greatness doesn't always shout. Mira looked at the crowd. "I never wanted to be famous," she began. "I only wanted to help." She paused. "There was a time when no one listened, a time when I felt invisible. But then someone listened, not because I had power or money, but because I spoke with truth." She looked into the crowd and smiled at Lena, sitting in the front row. And sometimes, the smallest voice, a child's voice, can open the biggest door. The audience stood and clapped again. Some even cried. After the event, many people came to meet her. Some were presidents. Others were young students. But all of them had one thing in common. They believed in her. Later that night, as Mira and Lena returned home, the streetlight outside their house flickered on, powered by Mira's own design. Lena looked up at her mother. "Did you ever imagine all of this would happen?" Mira shook her head.
Never.
But I always believe that even a small spark can start something big. Lena nodded. Can I be an engineer too? Mira smiled warmly. You already are. You started all of this, remember? They walked inside. Hand in hand, the house was quiet, peaceful, filled with light, and as Mira looked out the window one last time before bed, she saw stars above the city, bright, steady, beautiful, just like the future she helped build. The end.